pleasure to turn it over to Ms. Beattra Wilson, who, as you all heard today, is our Director of Urban and Community Forestry Program for the Forest Service. And you all heard all her amazing credentials this morning, so I won't go back into it. But one thing I do want to say is that she brings her full self professionally to the work, but I think more importantly and more effectively, she brings her whole personal and vocational self to the work. And that really makes a big difference in some of the work that all of us are trying to do to make sure that everyone has equitable access to nature. So we're very fortunate to have her on our side, on our team, both as the coalition and then as for all of us individually. So I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce our special guest this evening. Take it away, Beattra, and thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, and congratulations again. Good late afternoon, early evening, everyone. I'm Beattra Wilson. I saw you earlier this morning, and I've been popping in and out, just enjoying some of the presentations. I'm excited to have our leadership with the Forest Service here with us this evening. I also miss the idea of us heading across town to the Botanical Gardens, but this is still, again, a way for everybody to continue to stay together. So I hurried up and scrolled through the photos. I have the little postage stamp on the side. I see Chief Christensen is here, and also our new Associate Deputy Chief, John Crockett, is in the space, who I want to make sure he at least gives to provide greetings. But I want to start and tee up because we are all friends. Most of us know each other, but we also have had this huge opportunity to invite new faces and spaces into our coalition meeting this year. And so I want to give everyone a formal introduction of our chief, who's been a dynamic supporter of the work we do in urban and community forestry. And so I am going to tee up our chief, Vicki Christansen, who is the dynamic leader of our 193 million acre national forest system. And we are an agency of over 25,000 permanent employees. Chief Christensen has had over a 26-year career here, actually 36-year, career here at the Forest Service and throughout her forestry career. She was at one time our deputy chief of state and private forestry, which is why I always say when we're providing talking points, she is perhaps more well-versed with our work in urban forestry, as she's been a strong supporter. And she's also previously been a state forester for both the state of Arizona and the state of Washington. I do want to put it in a room. Rachel, you talk about me bringing my whole self and showing up in this space with the Forest Service, with urban and community forestry. Chief Christensen is also leading the charge with her core values and challenging all of us to show up in the same way. And our Forest Service values, just to quickly go through, because you heard a lot of alignment with what I said this morning: conservation, service, interdependence, diversity, and safety. And these are all priorities for our agencies, but these are all timeless priorities. And so they allow us the space and grace to do what we need for all of our recreators on our national forests and grasslands, but then also thinking about the unique opportunity we have through urban and community forestry to get at a population that has an opportunity to be exposed to even more green space. So with that being said, I'll start with Chief Christensen. If you'll turn on your camera, Chief, you can have the microphone now.
I'm on. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Beattra, for that warm introduction, and congratulations to Beattra for stepping into a really important role of ours as director of our urban and community forestry program. And of course, Beattra is no stranger to this work, and do absolutely appreciate her energy. And I want to get John Crockett, our new Associate Deputy Chief, on the screen as well. And Beattra, thank you for shouting out the national forests, but you set me up well, just to make sure everyone knows that our mission at the Forest Service is to sustain the health, diversity, and productivity of the nation's forests and grasslands for the benefit of current and future generations. So yes, we are anchored in the direct management of the national forests, but of course we have the world's largest forestry research and development organization with a strong component in urban forestry and all of our work in the cities with our urban forestry labs, and of course our state and private authorities that helps us work with and through others to sustain the nation's forests, including urban and community forests. So it's just, I want to thank you for each and every one of you for what you do each and every day to protect and grow our nation's urban and community forests. Because, you know, as you all know so well, and why you work so hard, these forests are critical to the quality of life for all Americans. And urban trees deliver, we know, cleaner air, they protect our waterways, and they preserve our health. And the increased demands on this incredible resource, as well as the impacts from natural disasters, are a continuous challenge, but also a great opportunity. You know, in the pandemic, the importance of urban trees has really been amplified as we saw our municipal green spaces experience extreme overuse due to the physical and social distancing requirements. We know that rising temperatures in summer months have exposed environmental injustices in communities that experience hotter days due to the underinvestment in canopy cover, which could serve as natural cooling solution to these vulnerable populations. We also know that pest and disease outbreaks continue to threaten our urban forests, as seen with impacts to ash trees wiped out by the emerald ash borer. And hurricanes and extreme wind events are reoccurring that are compromising the health and the resilience of our urban forests. But you all together are a tremendous network, and together are tremendous partners that support our collective goal to protect the health and the sustainability and the growth of the nation's urban forests, where more than 83% of Americans live. And our small little piece, our small little urban and community forestry program, we call it Little But Mighty, is at historic funding levels with a $40 million appropriated budget. And that shows how much our authorizers and appropriators know the importance of all of us connecting to leverage for sustainable urban forests. And it's just really critical that we continue to maintain and grow tree canopy cover and green spaces while ensuring equitable access and inclusive planning to meet the needs of our most vulnerable populations. In 2020, our urban and community forestry program worked with our state partners to deliver tools, best available science, and resources to more than 7,500 communities, home to over 203 million Americans. And our research and development, as well as urban community forestry in the Forest Service, our partnership with Davey Tree, we continue to support communities in understanding and planning their urban and community forests through the iTree suite of tools. And the recent addition of the redlining maps into iTree landscape can inform tree planting decisions as we work together for a more equitable distribution of urban trees across communities suffering from systemic disinvestment. And so Beattra talked about the core values of the Forest Service, conservation, interdependence, and service. And we really depend on that interdependence with so many partners. I'm going to just give a brief flyby of several of you. You know, we continue to support the Arbor Day Foundation as they grow and maintain their recognition programs. In 2020, Arbor Day virtually hosted their largest ever Partners in Community Forestry conference with more than 800 attendees. Way to go, Arbor Day Foundation. And this virtual platform allowed for a more inclusive audience. And urban and community forestry program, our urban and community forestry program partnered to provide registration scholarship for students and local conservation organizations to experience the nation's largest convening of urban forestry professionals and advocates. And this month, Arbor Day Foundation is going to launch its first Tree City USA conference by virtually connecting more than 1,000 urban forestry leaders, professionals, and volunteers. I think that's just fantastic. The International Society of Arboriculture, ISA, also experienced a record-breaking and more inclusive audience with their virtually offered, globally attended 2020 annual conference. And the Vibrant Cities Lab continues to grow, providing best available science and tools to practitioners of all kinds that care about trees. American Forests has been a collaborator and innovator on this web-based hub that has attracted more than 25,000 people. And American Forest campaigns for tree equity and urban tree cores has directly advanced the Forest Service goals around planning and diversity and inclusion. Just such a marvelous work. You know, we're also proud partners with the Nature Conservancy in protecting urban forest health through the launch of the Healthy Trees, Healthy Cities app. This app engages city forest managers and citizen scientists alike in monitoring the health of urban forests, improving the on-the-ground maintenance and the national understanding of how pests and disease impact our forested landscapes. And finally, we continue to work with our federal family. We're very humbled to contribute some of the national leadership and coordination for USDA in the Urban Waters Federal Partnership, which coordinates and leverages the assets of 15 federal agencies to restore urban waters and revitalize the communities which surround them. And we continue to serve on USDA's Office of Urban Agriculture and Innovative Production. It's an internal advisory council to promote and leverage urban tree orchards, urban food forests, and urban agroforestry resources and opportunities through its competitive grants programs. And I'm pleased to say that we are strategically advancing the goals of the Trillion Trees initiative through our research and development and our urban and community forestry programs. And we actively support 1t.org, trilliontrees.org, the partner platform that promotes reforestation through corporate and international engagement. So that's just a few of the highlights, folks. If you don't think you have impact, you really do. And you know, the network of the Sustainable Urban Forestry Coalition is really a model to study and a model for others, all coming from different places on a shared common goal. And I really am grateful for another year of great collaboration with all of you. And we look forward to continuing to innovate together, moving forward to achieve even more sustainable and equitable urban forests. And I want to congratulate the new Sustainable Urban Forest Coalition leadership. Chair Caitlin Pollahan, International Society of Arboriculture, the executive director, and Rachel, congratulations to you. Thanks for stepping in as vice chair, of course, from the Nature Conservancy, the urban forestry strategist. So thank you for inviting me into your social time. I'd love to get John on board, or Beattra. What's next? Q&A or get John in here?
I'll go ahead and get John in. Thank you so much, Chief. I appreciate you joining us. As you all can tell, you hear the excitement in our Chief's voice, and so this is an honor for me this evening. And I also want to make sure you all meet our newest member to State and Private Forestry, our Associate Deputy Chief, John Crockett. John, you might have to say something to show up on our screen. I think I have this in speaker mode.
Can you hear me? All right.
I can hear you now. So John Crockett he came to us October of last year, and he has been in the Forest Service over 23 years now, a lot of professional and career experience on the National Forest System side, but has jumped in State and Private Forestry with I would say, a seamless transition, as we all have some very similar challenges, whether you're on public or private lands. And so we're excited to have this new leadership, and John wanted to give you an opportunity to speak as well.
Sure. Thanks, Beattra, and thanks, Chief, for the words. And it's great to see all the partners on the screen here. I was able to join for the first part of the session this morning, just to hear some leadership remarks, and heard a little bit of the introductions, and then I had to jump off. So I'm going to come clean. So I'm not coming to the table as an expert in the urban world. I consider myself to be on a learning journey, and what better way to learn than to be able to engage with partners and hear your side of the story on it. I've spent the majority of my career on the National Forest System side, as a forester. Forestry is my background, so I definitely understand that side of the world, and I've been working a lot with Beattra to make sure that I get up to speed and I show up in a way that's beneficial on the urban side of things, and the other programs in the state and private portfolio that I'm managing. So I won't keep us for long, because I know there's the interaction. This is supposed to be the social time. Just wanted to jump in and say hi to everybody. Thanks, Beattra.
Awesome. Thanks, John. And thanks again, Chief. Let's see, I think I see Rachel. Yes, up in the left on the screen. I'm going to turn it back over to you. I know what this moment feels like when outside is open, and so I'll let you get the party started.
All right, well, this is all a party. The party has already started, because we have three fabulous Forest Service leaders, and I know there are a number of other Forest Service colleagues on, so maybe if our other colleagues from the Forest Service can just maybe give a wave. I see Erica. I think there may be, yes, and Quinn and Philip. So this is wonderful. So thank you all for joining us. So I'm going to borrow a line from Janice, our facilitator extraordinaire, in saying that Zoom has become the great democratizer, which means you all are in a room with the chief and the associate deputy chief for the Forest Service. So you all have a chance to ask them a question directly. And I think, sure, we can look at the chat, and I can certainly offer up questions, but I think it would be much more valuable for these folks to hear from you directly. So what I'm going to request is, if you would not mind, maybe raise your hand. I will call on you, and Laura will spotlight you if you don't mind. And please, if you are a little uncomfortable, that's by all means, go ahead and chat a question and I'll offer it up. But let's see how far we can get speaking from our own voices. So who's going to be the brave first questioner? Come on, I'll buy you a drink. Come on, someone.
All right, I'll do it.
All right, Lance.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vicki, for that amazing message and for your leadership through a lot of trying times. It's exciting. I think SUFC is working. I know I've said it to everybody before. Bringing together a diverse coalition is not an easy thing. The Forest Service invested in it years ago, and it's working. And so I would just say thank you to everybody. I don't have any pointed questions or anything. Just it's been a great meeting. Everybody's done a great job. And thank you to Chief Christensen. And I look forward to meeting you, John, and working with you to further the really impactful work that your urban and community forestry program is doing all across the country. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Lance. I couldn't agree with you more. That as I said, SUFC is a great model, and you all have stuck together. You know, you had a leadership helm and did a lot for SUFC, And it's you've seen that. I'm going to bungle it because I don't have it in front of me, but the geese formation saying, where geese fly in formation, they draft off of each other. When the lead gets tired, they rotate out and draft, because they're all going in the same direction. And then, of course, one falls out, a geese falls out, two go down to stay by its side till it either dies or is well enough and join the rest of the flock. Well, there's a bit of analogy here for me for SUFC. You draft off each other, you all bring something, a bit different, but again, towards a common goal in the way you back and support. And the sustainable part of the coalition is really played out, even through this pandemic, having a happy hour during a pandemic. So way to go. And, these don't have to be questions. You can give comments or feedback back to us at the Forest Service as well, folks.
All right, don't be shy. And if you're confused or not sure where to put your hand up, if you look on the lower right hand, there we go, Sarah, thank you. Let me just finish. If you look in the bottom right where it says reactions and click on that, there is an opportunity to click on your hand and then you can raise your hand. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Rachel, and thanks Chief Christensen and Deputy Chief Crockett, and of course, Director Wilson for joining us this evening. This is such a thrill. One of the questions I have is about kind of coordinating between branches of the Forest Service to achieve outcomes. So one of the things that we're really excited about doing, I lead the workforce work on behalf of the American Forests and Urban Forestry. And we've been coordinating with Job Corps centers who offer urban forestry training to try and figure out how we can expand that to meet our workforce demands. And we're anticipating a lot more workforce demand coming here shortly. So I wondered if you guys had any suggestions or models or thoughts around how we can continue to foster that and use the existing infrastructure and just kind of scale that up.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sarah. That's a little gem that has a lot of possibility in the Forest Service. We are, well, first, sorry to get into the structural things, but they are important. Job Corps is in partnership with Department of Labor. They completely fund the program. We're like a contractor, but we're a federal agency. All the rest, we operate 24 Job Corps centers, and all the rest of the Job Corps centers, there's just over 100 of them in the nation, are by private contractors. So we're the only federal government that run Job Corps Center funded by DOL. So I won't go into all of what's behind the scenes, but they go on, where the labor market needs trained labor force. And we are going through a reset, quite frankly, and it's always slower than you want it to be when you're working with another federal agency. I'm not suggesting anything about DOL, but you get two major agencies together to align our curriculum that on the Job Corps centers that we run to be more directly connected with conservation, and so all conservation. So it's a slower process than we want, and we're and for every trade that we give up, when we're not going to teach welding or carpentry, then we have to get those students off of that and into another trade. So there's more than you wanted to know about the structural pieces. But what I would say, and I'm going to look to Beattra, is that we get our Job Corps Center director, Jerry Ingersoll, more connected and introduced in this community. Because even though we may not have the opportunity to expand in forestry curriculum greatly, there's still opportunities for the students need to do civic-based service to the student population writ large, to do some urban forestry type program. So John and Beattra, I think that's a good suggestion that we maybe facilitate a little more connection with our Job Corps leadership. So thanks for that question, and thanks for the work that you do, Sarah.
Yeah, one of the things that I'll add, I hear like a weird echo. All right, so one of the things that I'll add, Sarah, is it's great to hear that kind of feedback from a partner. Internally, we realize that many times we don't do enough cross-deputy collaboration or cross-deputy level engagement, but to hear it from a partner is great. And you called out one example, and I think it's beneficial to call out other examples of, you know, how we can do better in integrating, and how, especially when it comes to helping to meet the need or mission delivery related to this issue. So thanks for calling it out, and open to other feedback on how we could do better as well.
And I will just add, Sarah, that your work with the Green Corps and the Tree Corps triggered us at the top of the fiscal year in Urban and Community Forestry to reach out to Job Corps to learn more about the model and get access to the curriculum, because our goal is to connect those students in the urban cohorts and the trade to the programs that, for example, one of our partners, are thinking through. Because of COVID, it got a little bit more delayed in terms of activity, but it was the work you're doing at American Forest that triggered us to actually reach out back in October, and a little bit of a dovetail off the work we were doing with Caitlin around the larger conversation of tree care workforce. And so we're thinking about all ends of the pipeline, recognizing that Job Corps is one that's already a success model for multiple reasons. So thank you for the question.
So thank you for the question. Thank you for all the responses. I am going to pose Daniela's question on her behalf. She said that her kids are next door doing Taekwondo, so it's a little noisy. But she's asking how the Forest Service is getting involved with the Civilian Climate Corps and what's happening with it.
I'm sorry, Rachel. I was reading another question, thinking that's what you were going to ask, and I didn't. What was the question again? My apologies.
No problem. The question was what's happening, or how is the Forest Service partnering with the Civilian Climate Corps, and what's happening with it? You
mean the proposed Climate Corps under the new administration?
I see Daniela nodding her head, so yes.
Yes. Well, we are poised. There's no Civilian Climate Corps yet. As you know, the executive orders on climate change that were issued in the first days of the Biden-Harris administration, one of the components were the Climate Conservation Corps concepts, and each department, is putting together a climate action plan, and those are due later in the spring, in May. And so there's a lot of conversation, and we are bringing the leverage of 21st Century Conservation Corps, which we work with partners, and we're not the only agency, but we work in a big way, 21st Century CCC, and going way back, our Job Corps experience. So we're bringing that voice to bear on lessons learned from standing up corps, how we really test our unconscious bias of wanting to be equitable, not just, getting work done for climate, not just creating jobs, but creating equity as well, because you always have to be careful when you have all those rotating parts. So it's early in the administration. I know when executive orders are put out, we think that it's going to happen right away, but there's conversations happening, and we're poised and are already a part of those conversations. Thanks for the question.
All right, thank you. So I think how about 2 more questions? And I would love to split the difference in having one read from the chat and then one potentially asked in person. Or Claire, if you would like to ask your question in person, then that's
sure.
Great.
I'd love to. Thank you again to Victoria, Beattra, John, it's so nice to see you. We need to see your faces during this crazy period. It means a lot to us. Thanks so much. So my question is, for all of the forests that are supporting major metropolitan areas, like we wouldn't be here as a metro area in LA without our forests, providing the water and air and biodiversity, recreation. But we feel that there's a tremendous, and I'm sure that's the same for Chicago and Houston and Portland, and there's a lack of resource and a lack of structure to articulate the connection between urban residents, especially from underserved communities, and their forest. And I just wonder what kind of approach we could have together during this next period to improve that and create urban stewards that are really, fire safe and ready to meet the challenges that we face with climate change.
Yeah, I'm going to open it up to my colleagues as well. That's a big question, Claire, and I think that's our both our challenge and an opportunity. For example, in the pandemic, and I said some of this in my remarks, for municipal green spaces, but it goes all the way, into the national forests. We received users that never had even thought about connecting with nature because the urban spaces and the commercial spaces that they might be using their discretionary time in were not available during the pandemic. So I am pushing our folks all the time. How do we seize that opportunity of that connection that people have made, whether it's in their municipal green space or all the way deep into a national forest or even a wilderness area, because now there's a connection and there's more curiosity. So, I'd throw it back to many of you of where are those opportunity spaces? And, we work on this in the Forest Service. There's kind of matching what the community needs are. For example, some of our best leaders on the Angeles National Forest, I was out there this summer, unfortunately, for the memorial service for one of our fallen firefighters. They came out of the, I'm going to mess up the name, Urban Explorers program that we started over 20 years ago in inner city LA to get youth connected to their forests. The forest management officer of the entire Angeles Forest came out of that program. So, that's a small piece for LA. In our Northeast area, we have our Urban Connections program. And Phil, you might be able, or Beattra might be able to speak more details, but we have national forests and of course our state forestry partners, a lot of forests, but a lot of major metropolitan areas in the Northeast, and weaving a thread and making a connection through education programs, through work learning and others, on making a connection of urban, particular youth, but others, in connecting to wherever forests are and how they need it. And we have a leadership intention at the Forest Service, and it says to create a culture of inclusion that awakens and strengthens all people's connection to the land. And that means all people's and its connection to the land wherever that connection can be made, right, folks? Not everybody's going to go out deep into the national forest. We just want them to be able to have some appreciation of, what urban street trees or community green spaces do, and they have a connection and a value to the land. So there's multiple ways we can do that. We can always do more, and I'd love your feedback. And I want to open it up to any others, Forest Service colleagues or others, to add to that.
I will say, hi, Beattra, and hi, Vicky, thanks. The Urban Connections program got a lot of attention from Congress, right? A $2 million directive to the agency. I would imagine that would attract attention from the other regions that want to stand up a program like that. Wouldn't you think, Vicky?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity to connect between cities and forests that the Region 9 Eastern region out of Milwaukee has.
And Claire, I'd add, I'm glad the chief mentioned leadership as well, because something we have had access to in our Washington office is through our partnership office, we used to have a structure called it was a group, essentially they were the forest supervisors of our urban national forest. And so we've had conversations recently about how and when to re-engage in those conversations and maybe even reach across to urban national parks who are interested in the same conversations. I think we all have a common goal at this moment, and I think we should leverage each other's expertise and access because of what we're trying to do. So thank you for bringing that up, Claire. And I do think from a leadership perspective, we're strategically thinking about how to make sure that we're not just working in our silos and thinking about what we do and what our program may cover, but leveraging what other parts of our agency, our federal partners, and then also you all, what we can all do.
And thank you guys for all of your input, for all of your thoughts. I think collaboration is key, and I just really appreciate that as the sort of continued message. And so I know I said 2 more questions, but I lied. I actually would really like to take the opportunity to introduce to you Director Wilson, the chief, and then the associate deputy chief, one of our most talented emerging professionals, Ms. Asia May Sambunlakana, and I'm sorry if I butchered it, Asia May. But she has a question, and I think it would be helpful for you to hear a little bit about what she's working on. And so Asia May, if you wouldn't mind wrapping us up of the business portion of this conversation and just share what you put in the chat and maybe some details, because you are amazing.
Thank you. Well, Rachel's helped a lot, and so has Erica. So basically, I work for NYCHA, and this fall we hired Green City Forest workers who provides green jobs in New York City. So they run the NYCHA's urban farms, and we thought we should incorporate more forestry since we've had a lack of maintenance and tree care throughout NYCHA's campuses. So we started this collaboration with one another, with TNC and the Forest Service and New York City Parks, to develop this method of how we can collect both social and biological data while collecting heat sensor data throughout the really high heat vulnerable areas on NYCHA's campuses. So right now, I was just putting in the chat if anybody was interested in helping out with some of the data analysis for the project, I would really appreciate it. But thank you so much, Rachel, for inviting me today. I really appreciate it. This has been great. And thank you all so much.